Daniel Jeremiah put out a brand new mock draft. There's a lot of movement. We're going to break it all down for you today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins, and we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league. I'm a Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much.
Joe, I have a confession to make to you. I thumbed through this mock draft, but I did not really process this mock draft, which made me all that much more exciting. I tried to keep it close to the vest when we came in on the pre-show, and you're like, I got a lot of stuff put together, a lot of thoughts. I got a lot of names, some trends versus the last mock. Yeah. Are you cool doing that? I'm like, this is gonna be really fun because you could tell me probably 3/4 of it. I made the conscious decision of I want to have some kind of authentic, because you got a lot of that fun at the beginning of this draft cycle.
Yeah, I did.
When I would write the mock drafts and then we would talk about my mock drafts.
Yeah.
And you'd scroll in real time and be like, all right, I got to go down into the late 20s and whoever they get's the guy I'm really going to get. And you see how I feel.
Yeah.
And happy DJ mock draft to you.
They're always fun. And what we got to talk about today is quite a bit because we don't reflect on this mock draft. But to me, with this being 2.0, great opportunity to look at some of the movement. And so not only are we going to give our reaction to the picks, but looking at the 6 players that were mocked a month ago in the first round that fell out. We got 6 new names in, a lot of players going up and down. So we'll reflect on that in addition to the way that this thing shakes out. But I'd love to start at the top, Kyle.
Yep.
One thing that's interesting to me, and we almost did the pod before the pod, and then we cut it off.
You got real close.
In the pre-show. So we came real close, but I want to go right back to it right now. Mock Draft 1.0, Mock Draft 2.0. It's the same 7 names that are the first 7 picks. You have 2 that are in a different spot, but these are the names: Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Shadur Sanders, Tyler Warren. Is that it? Is that the top 25% of this class? Are you buying that? Is there shaking going to happen when we get to draft day, or is this really the cream? Is this the cream of the crop?
I would be surprised if Tyler Warren ends up being in the top 7 picks. And I know that it feels like, I think you might have this. Did DJ put Tyler Warren to the Jets the first time? I feel like he did.
Yes, he went number 7 both times. Yep.
DJ seems a little down on Will Johnson, but Will Johnson came back up. I know that's a trend from this one to the last one. He went at 11 to San Francisco, which I think that's probably Will Johnson's predictive floor. I know I heard from some San Francisco fans that say, their defensive line depth is an issue for them. Would be surprised if they went corner over defensive line. And I get it, but if Will Johnson's staring you in the face at 11, I'd be stunned if you don't go that route.
Dude, I think Will Johnson has landing spots at 7, right? If they don't bring back DJ Reed. And you want to talk about Aaron Glenn, man. He puts a lot on those corners. You're on an island.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina at 8. You think they can use some help?
Probably
Chicago.
You could say 6 and 5.
Yeah, you can't, dude. You absolutely can. There's a lot of destinations. I think Will Johnson's an elite prospect. I know that it feels like maybe there's some thoughts out there about how the season finished, and
definitely feels like it's a big part of it for him. Yes.
Because if the tape's the tape and the profile's the profile, this is a high pick corner.
Doesn't it feel a little bit like how the buzz on Stingley went through the pre-draft process?
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah.
And it was phenomenal as a freshman. And I think Will Johnson probably played his best football as a freshman. And then, Stingley had the injuries for 2 seasons where it was kind of on and off the field, and Johnson didn't have it to that degree. But he was banged up this year and was kind of out of sight, out of mind. And now here we are, and it's February, and it's pre-combine, and Stingley with, his best football was 2 years ago and the durability questions. And it's paid off in a big way for Houston. I got to see it up close and personal this year. He's a phenomenal talent.
Yeah.
And living up to his potential, and the ball production's there. And that whole Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley conversation, I know Sauce had a lot of early accolades, but from a ball production standpoint, like, Stingley's got him now. So
yeah,
I just think about that path with Stingley in a recent year, and I apply that to Will Johnson, and that's where I can't help but feel like we're going to get close to this draft, and magically you're going to see Will Johnson 5 to Jacksonville to pair with Tyson Campbell, or
yeah,
the Raiders get a free agent quarterback, and it's open for them, right? Because they, like, Raiders at corner, like they even got like Nate Hobbs as a free agent, like they need help.
Sure.
Big way in the secondary. And Trevor Murray's a potential free agent at safety for them.
Mm-hmm.
Jets with DJ Reed. Carolina, you could tell me that if the pass rushers end up going out in front of them, they could go there. Paulson Adebo's a free agent in New Orleans. San Francisco, like, you go right down the line.
Yeah, so I do with that commentary. I think that San Francisco is the floor. And boy, if he's there for San Francisco, I hear you on defensive line depth. I hear you.
But it's a deep defensive line class.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it.
Right. So yeah, I would agree. Will Johnson's probably the guy that can crash that party at the top. One of the big storylines with this mock draft is 3 first-round running backs. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you called your shot on the salary cap, right? We got the news. It was like I
didn't say that on the air, though, did I?
No, I thought you did. I thought said 280. You said 282 on the air. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So you can take your victory lap there. I predicted that it would be Travion Henderson as the 3rd running back. So Ashton Genty to Pittsburgh. That'd be a heck of a pick, right? Omarion Hampton to the Chargers out of North Carolina. And then the Vikings. The Vikings go Travion Henderson as the 3rd back here. Is this my thought when I saw this was it's the Lions, right? People want Jahmyr Gibbs. And I haven't really watched Henderson. I've seen the highlights, but you feel like that influences this, or do you think that Travion Henderson is legit a first-round running back?
He's my 3rd back. I have a 77.5 grade on him, which is good for on my big board this year. It's a top 50. I have a top 50 grade on Travion Henderson. Really good. He's like the bigger. He's like big, fast Kyron Williams. Like, he's a killer in pass pro in the same way that Kyron Williams was. And you're like, how are you this good in pass pro? You're like 192 pounds. But Travion Henderson's on the roster at 208, like 5'10", 208. He can fly. He runs fast. I know Tom McShay got up on the soapbox for Travion Henderson too recently. So I don't think it's a coincidence that a couple of like the legacy, longtime big media personalities that know a lot of people are going to bat for this guy. I think that's probably something we should not be sleeping on at this stage in the process.
Yeah. Trendy. People want the big play out of the running backs, man. You're looking for explosive plays somehow. You're going to play too high. Let's go.
He can contribute in every phase in the passing game.
Yeah.
So
it's a good recipe. Yeah. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is helping a guy like Travion Henderson. Let's do our fan reaction picks, and then we'll do like risers and fallers.
Oh, like who we get?
Yeah, Dolphins get Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama.
They're not going to do this.
Why not?
They're going to sign multiple free agent guards.
Okay, so you think that the answer is that guard comes. Okay, so if not, cool pick, but figure that out in free agency. That opens up your options.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the picks that go behind. Michael Williams, Kenneth Grant, Jahdae Barron. That's the block. Shamar Stewart, who falls a little bit in DJ's mock.
Mm-hmm.
But you could look at picks that go 15, 16, and 17, and I think those are very good options for Miami when they inevitably sign probably 3 free agent offensive linemen.
That's a good lens for people to look at, because I think I've done mock drafts with other people. I read them. It's like, got to be a guard, or offensive lineman. All right. Well, that's exactly how free agency can change this landscape. So
did you see, it was something about like pass pass set win rate and the graph. I forget who it is, but it's somebody. It might be one of the ESPN analytics guys, and they're doing like charts of like age versus success in like a singular metric. And it's offensive linemen for their pass protection win rate. And it is a linear line up and to the right until about 30 years old. So whenever you come into the league, the league-wide average is you sustainably and incrementally get better for like your first 8 years in the league. Now there's guys that come in and they're killers, right? But the vast majority of like offensive line development, we just had, let's give him his moment in the sun. John Feliciano just retired.
Yeah.
Right? What was John Feliciano when he first got in the league?
Couldn't start for the Raiders. Yeah.
Couldn't play.
Yeah.
And then he finishes his career and he has multiple stops at multiple places with respectability to good is his outcome of play.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other conversation and getting into that with who you think's a pro-ready offensive lineman that could play right away and the whole can of worms. But I just think that's very interesting. And for a team that needs to get it right like Miami, I'm not going to blame them when they go out and they sign multiple starting interior offensive linemen free.
It's like geezer ball, man. You ever play pickup basketball and there's that guy, he's going to drain threes. He's going to make them. That's maybe
apply that on a poster if you're not careful. So don't give enough space.
Real quick on the Bills, Matthew Golden at pick 30. Boy, I'm not mad about that. I'd love the defensive line help, but he's my wide receiver one. And the Bills need somebody that can beat man coverage. They face the most man coverage in the league like multiple years in a row, but this year by far the most. And I think that's a resounding message to your ability to uncover on the outside. Yeah, Matthew Golden, answer for sure. All right, we got risers and fallers. A lot of that. We're going to break that down for you here next, folks. Be sure to stick with us. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, also that you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, we're going to talk risers. So I think we said this, but 6 players are new to this mock draft. Kyle has called the
timeout. Going to call an audible here.
Somebody retire.
It's from Brian Burke. I'm going to put it on the screen.
Wow, this is crazy. All right,
it's very fascinating data for me. I'd like for us to be able to follow it up.
Oh, this is the offense? We're back to the offensive line age thing.
Yes, and you could take pass block win rate on ESPN at face value, right, as a metric. But there's enough metrics out there that measure this kind of stuff. Isn't that like a fascinating? Like, you don't see offensive linemen start to have a downturn until 30-31 and the improvement of their pass block win rate.
I think this is Deion Dawkins' career arc.
Yes.
Dawkins was a good player. Over the last 3-4 years, he's become a great player.
Like, and the average year-to-year percent change, you see like the acceleration that happens from 24 to 27, but then it continues to go up from 27 to 31.
Yeah. Fascinating.
So, sorry. All right.
No, that's good. Good information. Everyone can stew on that as they consider what their team should do with the offensive line help that pretty much everyone needs.
Not saying don't draft them. Just saying there's strategy to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, we're talking risers. So the biggest riser for a player that was in the last mock that is still in this mock is by far Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. 28th pick.
Yeah. Back
when he did this in late January, here in mid to late February, he goes number 9. This dude is on a massive ascension. Probably the weigh-in at the Senior Bowl, the performance at the Senior Bowl. This guy's climbing big time.
The tape's real deal. And you can look at Marshall, but know that he was originally at Virginia. So this was ACC recruit. The performance at the Senior Bowl speaks for itself. What he did to Josh Connolly on a rep showcased his power, although Connolly was at right tackle. I understand that, but nevertheless, still super impressive rep. Guys that are built low to the ground with explosiveness and can still bend, it's a dangerous combination. And that's what you have with Mike Green. And I think that's the reason why you're seeing him in this stratosphere now. He's since the Senior Bowl, I think he's been in the top. I think he might have been 8 to Carolina last two mocks that I've done.
Yeah.
So you're right in that ballpark, and I'm not surprised at all. Am I maybe a little surprised that that's the body type of a pass rusher that New Orleans would go after with Mickey Loomis? Maybe. Right. Well, you could tell me that could be Michael Williams if you think he's the higher between he and Shamar Stewart. And I'd probably say that's a little bit more in line with what they have historically done. But I've been doing that and putting Green at 8 to Carolina and having Walker, who he has at 8, slipping down into the teens. And that's been how I've been slotting them. So it's all very tightly bundled. It's just what order the first domino goes.
19-point jump for Mike Green. Let's talk about players that weren't in the last mock draft that are in this one. The highest drafted player that's new, Seattle Seahawks, Gray Zabel. We talked all about this guy this week, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State, certainly carrying some momentum from the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, as he should. The positional flexibility, the ability to play. I mean, he started at 4 spots and then had the 5th spot at the Senior Bowl and looked really good snapping the football. The flexibility that gives you. And I know that's the first thing that DJ references in his analysis of the pick. But Zabel is, I think if you're a team that's banking on getting Gray Zabel in the early second round, I think you're going to be disappointed. I don't think it's going to happen for you.
Yeah. All right, the next one. Welcome to the party. Omarion Hampton, running back, UNC. He goes 22 to the Los Angeles Chargers.
It's a good player. Little overlooked because of the Ashton Genty buzz, but a very productive player, very dense, very surprising amount of explosiveness despite the frame that he has as a big back, aka a perfect fit for a Harbaugh rushing offense.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer. It's I think for me a matter of at one of the other positions of need, do you have a player that could be graded equally that would trump the possible fit?
The next one, number 24, the Vikings, picked the 3rd running back of the first round. I kind of talked about this already, but Travion Henderson, welcome to the party. He's a new addition. At 25, the Houston Texans, Emeka Egbuka, a common first-round player to be mocked, didn't make the cut the first time for DJ, goes to Houston in what really feels like a pretty logical fit.
This is a no-brainer putting him back with CJ, right?
Right. The need that it's very obvious. And I think, I think I mostly see him go in this range. So expectations are kind of there. This one I'm excited about, Kyle Krabs. Number 26, the Los Angeles Rams, Darius Alexander, Toledo. Welcome to the first round, brother.
We can't put this cat on the same defensive line as all these other guys that the Rams have up front. We can't do it. He's a monster. He's a certified monster, and very impressed with how he conducted himself that week as far as prepping individual rush plans for each one of the guys for each day of practice. It showcased itself, the athleticism that he has. At his frame, he is a prototype frame. You put that on the same line as Braden Fisk and Jared Verse and
Kobe Turner
and Byron. No, this is not allowed to happen because this would be an absolute nightmare for people to try to block up.
That's feeling Philly-like. Philly-like,
Yep.
One more new addition, the Detroit Lions, Donovan Jackson. He's offensive lineman, Ohio State.
Yeah, obviously helped himself with playing tackle down the stretch the second half of the season for Ohio State. I think there's maybe some extra juice that he's getting off the fact that he played against some not great pass rush looks are in very complimentary game scripts in the playoff, where Ohio State's putting belts to rumps on a number of teams, and these good pass rushers that they have can't really get after it. But you like the position flex. He's a former, very highly regarded recruit. The athleticism is very apparent. I think the frame and the athleticism component is a very Detroit mix. I would have to imagine they would probably love to see Tyler Booker get out of the teens and into their stratosphere.
Interesting that 3 of the new additions are all Ohio State Buckeyes to this mock draft. We got to talk guys that fell out, because 6 in means that 6 are out. But I want to ask one more question to you before we get there. Among the players that didn't join the party, Jackson Dart, the quarterback from Ole Miss, there's been a lot of hype there. Whether it's going into the Senior Bowl, from the Senior Bowl, he didn't, quarterback needs there, right? That's nothing's changed. Teams still need quarterbacks. Is this at the point now where if he started to get mocked in the first round, he's had 2 chances to do it, like a late riser at quarterback, like that's kind of unique?
I don't know. I felt like I feel like if he was going to rise into the stratosphere, it would have happened already.
Right.
And it felt like we got out of the event, and you could tell that the agency was working overtime with the insiders, where the guys that aren't draft analysts, but the guys that are breaking news guys, are talking about how great of a week Jackson Dart had. I don't think that's a coincidence. And then the actual prognosticators are getting up here and stepping into the podium, and here's my top 32 picks, and guess who's not in it?
I couldn't help but notice. I had to bring it up.
Great observation, Joe.
All right.
You know how the game works.
We're talking guys that fell out here on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with us. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you could stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I really miss my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
What do you got for me? Fallers.
All right. Let's start with the guys that fell within the draft. These guys both fell more than 10 spots.
Okay.
I think the big one that maybe caught some people by surprise, and my reaction to this, and I sent you a text message, I said, this is becoming a more comfortable conversation. And I'm referring to Tet McMillan, the receiver from Arizona. Fell from number 8 to 19. That's an 11-point drop. The other guy that fell, Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama, he goes from 9 to 19. He falls 10 spots. 19 to 29, excuse me. That's where he fell. So those are the 2 guys that fell 10 spots that were still in the mock draft. Arizona receiver Tet McMillan, Bama linebacker Jahad Campbell.
I'm trying to determine what the subsection is that is most, I don't want to say enraged, but upset by this recent adjustment for Tet McMillan.
I never understood the top 10 stuff, and I'm not saying he won't go in the top 10. I could be wrong about that. I didn't see a top 10 receiver. I saw a first-round receiver. I didn't see a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, he's my 16th ranked player in my last first-round grade that I have.
That makes sense to me. But there's sticker shock for people because you've looked at mock drafts for the last 6 months, and this guy's going even in the top 5.
Yeah. It was
you got to find a spot for him, right?
As high as wherever New England was picking because they needed a wide receiver.
Right.
I'm buying this though. I feel like there is a lot of momentum that he's maybe not coveted in the stratosphere when you consider he's got great body control. But the burst at the top of the route, I don't think he's going to blaze in the 40 time. People will point to stylistically how Mike Evans is one. I mean,
it's a unique man.
I fell for that with Mike Evans.
Yeah.
But Mike Evans is what, 230 and does
It's a different cat, dude. We're talking about a first ballot Hall of Fame receiver, like that's just a unique football player to invoke.
So Evans was 6'4 3/4, 231 pounds. Tet McMillan's listed at 6'5", 212.
And Mike Evans is still one of the best separators in the NFL.
Right. But he wins through physicality. And that's where I think people look at Tet and they're like, well, he's a big receiver and he can play physical. And he can play physically. He wins at the catch point. But I think he's not overwhelmingly physical to the degree that Mike is. And because of that, I think the fact that he's not as dynamic because he is a taller, longer receiver just makes it, he's a good player. I think he's going to be a productive NFL starting wide receiver. But I even think like Drake London might be a little ambitious.
Yeah, I agree. Campbell feels like he's such a fit type guy. Like it's destination matters. He's not a universal player.
Yeah,
I think that's where you're going to see variance for him. I'm unsurprised to see him go anywhere from 20 to 32.
You could tell me that Jihad doesn't make it in the top 32, and like I would believe that as well. But he's got that blend of traits and comfort and space that's pretty rare for a guy of his stature. That there are fits along the way that I think make a ton of sense for him, including Washington, where he ultimately ends up going. But you could say he goes to Tampa, and I think that makes a ton of sense as well. I think it's kind of ironic that the domino effect of Tet falling to Tampa Bay is that Jihad Campbell falls, and his next tumbling spot that he lands at is 29.
Perfect. All right, let's talk about the guys that fell out. We'll start with a guy that went 20th overall last time, didn't make the cut this time. We talked about him this week. Nick Imanwori, the safety from South Carolina, falls out.
I like Nick, but man, I felt DJ came in a little hot with that one. Now he's still grading him and coveting him in that stratosphere. So I think that's the eyes versus the ears conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think there are a number of spots where Nick Imanwori can go, and the situation is not great, and your performance is hurt because of it. So when you have a little bit more of a narrow skill-specific type skill set like that, sliding and falling even predictably in the actual draft would not surprise me at all, because it's kind of the domino effect like we just got done talking about with Jihad Campbell, right? Like, well, if not this team, then wins the next one.
Yeah.
And for Denver, who'd they take in the second mock? Because that's who took him in the first mock.
Colston Loveland.
And you got Sean Payton out here on K Adams talking about how we need a joker in the passing game, a mismatch player.
Boy, he's after that.
Yeah. So if that guy's there and the domino effect is Nick Imanwori doesn't go to 20, like I get it. It's same kind of deal.
Get your Colston Loveland jerseys, Broncos fans. This is going to be too easy. It's going to be Bo Nix. We knew it for 3 months. Now we know it this year as well.
Perfect Sean Payton quarterback, and then there you go. He's the perfect Sean Payton quarterback.
Luther Burden, the third, the wide receiver from Missouri, went 25 overall last time. Didn't make it this time.
I think go ahead.
I was going to say the Texans pick a different receiver is what happens. They went with Buka this time.
So some of the feedback that came out of Houston with their moving on from Bobby Slowick, I think is an interesting foil here, where they talked about, we didn't really know what we wanted to be offensively. Some of the precision of the offense was not there. And when I think about Luther Burden versus Emeka Egbuka, I think Emeka Egbuka is a much more precise route runner type of player, where Luther Burden is a little bit more of get the ball in his hands and let him make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that contrast is very interesting coming out of what the motivating factors were that helped perpetuate the offensive coordinator change there for Houston.
This next guy's a player I'm not super familiar with, so I'll defer completely to you, and I don't even want to say his first name. Begins with an A, last name Thomas.
Azaria Thomas.
Yeah. He's Florida State. Yeah. 27th pick, falls out this time.
Yeah, big, long corner. There's a lot of big, long corners in this class.
Maybe that's the problem.
I don't think that helps.
Right.
I'm a little bit lower than consensus on Thomas. I do think he is somebody from a development standpoint that's maybe going to have some growing pains when he first gets into the league, but the number of options that are available that are kind of cut from this cloth, I think doesn't help him, especially if you see runs in the trenches that happen early, and it forces some teams to kind of get more involved. So they're not left at the altar if they start panicking based on how the board falls.
Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon, was the Bills pick at 30 last time. And he falls out this time. And it's interesting because if I were to pick for the Bills at 30, I would be choosing between Derek Harmon and Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
And you could flip a coin. And I think either would be a great pick. But I felt like the Bills were the team to make that happen. Matthew Golden's available this time. Matthew Golden wasn't available last time. He went 9 spots higher. He went to Pittsburgh in the previous mock draft. So I think that's kind of the domino there. That's the right range for Harmon, but the Bills were the team that needed to pick him.
So I'll put this through this foil for grades. I have done 21 wide receivers with formal final write-ups so far for 2025. I have 8 that have first or second round grades. At defensive tackle, I have done 18 defensive tackles, and I have 10 that have first or second round grades. So I've done less. I'm probably out. I have a few guys that might sneak in with 3s. But the depth of this defensive tackle class with a lot of different body types, I think there's a little bit more of a scarcity element at wide receiver. So if you told me that was the route Buffalo chose to go based on trying to dictate terms on how they're getting played offensively, then I get it.
2 more players fell out. James Pierce, the Tennessee edge rusher, feels like that's been a journey all year long. And TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. Those were picks 31 and 32. They don't make the cut this time. Any thoughts on those?
And what, Philly goes Malachi Starks this time around? Another Georgia stud falls into Howie Roseman's lap.
Yeah, imagine that.
Hard to blame him. And then as it goes with James Pierce, feels like he's getting profiled a little bit as this 240-pound, long, lean edge rusher that the external media historically has been a little bit higher on than the draft itself. And that doesn't mean you're not going to be a successful player, but it feels like that's part of the current narrative and trend on him, James.
Yeah, it's like I remember Azeez Ojulari. It's like, is he going to go in the first round? It's like, nope, high 2.
Yeah.
Kind of the parallel there.
So great look at Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft. That's going to do it for us here today on the show. I'm Kyle Krabs. He is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We are back tomorrow with Takes on Takes. Joe is going to solicit your hot takes. We will react to your hot takes here on the show tomorrow. So bring some heat, and we'll talk to you all tomorrow, and we'll react to some of your hottest takes as we get ready for the 2025 NFL Combine next week.